What is up, everybody? Welcome to this GameXplain review discussion. I'm Jake, that's Adam, and today we're talking about Exoprimal. I want to give a shout out to Capcom. They sent us all these codes for the game like the day that it came out, so that's why we're a little bit late here. But I've been playing a good amount of Exoprimal. I know, Adam, you've been playing a lot. You talked about it on your own channel. And for the uninitiated, just want to set things up here. This is a multiplayer PvE, PvP game in which you go in these mech suits, all these different classes, and you are taking on hordes of dinosaurs coming out from the sky. Most of the time you're shooting down these dinosaurs, but sometimes you're shooting down other players in these mechs. And there's a lot of like Capcom weirdness, I think, in this game. So there's a lot of different places we could start. Adam, what's the big thing that jumps out to you? Where do you want to launch this discussion on Exoprimal?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Exoprimal is
Yeah.
that this game is weird in every single aspect. It's a weird melding of PvE, PvP. It has weird mechs. It has dinosaurs, which is something that isn't really used in games that much anymore. And then also its structure, how it delivers your new objectives, new maps, new enemies, is just weird. It makes no sense. But underneath all of this stuff that just makes this game so weird is something that I've actually really enjoyed as a casual multiplayer game. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, I've played 15, 20 hours of the game. I'm not going to sit here and say I've put hours in it the way I would with Rocket League or Overwatch or Splatoon. But as a casual multiplayer experience, this is one of the most unique, which I really have to commend Capcom on, and one of the most fun ones I've played in a long time. And it kind of gives me, you know, PS3 era vibes of just these strange multiplayer games that otherwise most developers and publishers wouldn't make nowadays. Like, you know, weird games like Gotham City Imposters or those really strange multiplayer games, or even Mag, which I loved. It just kind of gives off that
PS3, dude. There were like 500 people in there, whatever the heck it was.
I think it was 250 or 256 on each team. I forget if it was each team, but it's just a weird game. But there is something there to have some fun and enjoy.
I really like that. I like it because it's one of the most fun and unique casual multiplayer games I've played in a long time. And I think I want to do like a little compliment sandwich here. Because the first thing I want to say about Exoprimal is that the roster, there's like a fair number of these mechs, a lot, that it feels like I have a lot on my hands at least. And I went through, played, at least tried out, I think every single one of them, and was consistently surprised at how high quality the game felt in this regard. The mechs feel balanced, they feel unique, they feel fun to play, and I understood like the role each one was supposed to play immediately just based on the powers that they had. And like felt myself gravitating to certain ones and not liking others in the way that I think that you should in a game like this. And I loved like finding the mech that I was like, this is home for me. This is the one. This is the role I'm gonna fill. For me, it was the guy with the big shield. I love that guy. I can play that role on any team. There are some really cool things you can do with that guy where it's like you've got a Triceratops charging at you, and if you bring your shield up at the right time, he gets stuck in the shield. And he's like, oh man, he's like struggling against you. And then you do your little push attack, it pushes him off. And the fact that that is like an instance that is unique to that mech, happened to that person because of the way that you were playing. That's so cool to me. Like that's such a attention to detail and just like a fun thing to happen in the middle of this multiplayer game. So yeah, I really like the character classes and I thought they were a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think the character classes are, as you said, they all feel unique. And even sitting here, I can't really remember their names. And I will admit that their designs are a bit, not samey, but a bit unmemorable. I feel they kind of remind me of something from like Power Rangers or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even like, so as visual design of them, not really too memorable. But what I can remember is all of their abilities.
Yeah.
Like I always gravitate towards support characters. I've always been a support man. That's just where I go. And my favorite character is Nimbus, who has like a hybrid pistols and healing gun and kind of skates around a bit like Lucio and can do this dash ability or send out like a phantom that she can warp to. But then that phantom can also revive people, which is really cool. And it took me ages to realize that. And then even all the other, like all the 3 supports, they're all completely different. And there's another one that's kind of a bit of a hybrid, flies into the air.
Skywave.
Is that the name?
Skywave. I remember that one. I thought that was cool.
Sounds like a transformer or something.
Yeah.
But and even in that, like with the tanks, I've always been a tank or support person. I like a bit of DPS, but you know, not too often. And the guy with the shield, he is so cool.
Yes.
I don't know his name, but he's just really big shields that you can bash people with. And again, as you were saying with how the Triceratops got stuck in the shield, those other guys with the big heads. I'm not even gonna. Are we gonna attempt to try pronounce dinosaur names?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those guys with the big head, Doppelcephalopsaurus or something like that.
Yeah.
You can shield bash them as they're charging to knock them over, and then you can deal massive damage, as the memes say. But and then have you unlocked the final tank?
Yeah, I've got them all.
Yeah. He is. For anybody that doesn't know, he's this big red guy. He has a big samurai sword. And he has this cool sort of deflect ability, this parry deflect that you have your samurai sword ready, you absorb all the damage, and then you unleash this ability that just launches every enemy up into the air. And it's just so cool. There is a certain I loved Power Rangers growing up. Power Rangers is one of my favorite TV shows to watch. And there's something very campy, B-movie-esque kind of action to this. And it's something, again, that I just don't think you get much of nowadays in games. There's very few games that feel this way.
Yeah, 100%. And I almost feel the way that we're talking about it, I think it's clear that they maybe should have gone a little goofier in the designs. I think it could have done to be a little bit more pronounced, make them characters. It's like kind of weird the mechs kind of have personalities and voices, but it's always you in the suit.
Yeah.
Like that's just a strange thing, but sure. So yeah, I would have liked if they went a little bit further on this. Also, shout out my favorite DPS class is the sniper one. I love you're so strong and just like picking your shots, taking down the big guys. Really fun way to play the game. But to continue with my compliment sandwich here. So that was a compliment. Now criticism. The way that the game doles out modes and stages is so strange, confusing, not clear that that's what's happening. Before we started recording, Adam, you made a comment to me where it's like, if you played this game for 5 hours, you would think you had seen the entire game and it was just playing the same thing over and over and over again. And then for some reason you have progressed far enough and it goes, here's a really cool new mode. Here's a really cool new map. And I know when it happened to me, I was shocked. I was like, what is this game all of a sudden? And I do wish it came a little bit sooner. And I'm not entirely sure why it makes that choice.
Yeah, there are certain design choices when it comes to different games that I sit there and I really just rack my brain. I'm like, what? I understand that when it comes to developing a game, pretty much every single thing in a game is a decision. It was a roadblock that they came to and they took one path or the other. And I really, really cannot understand how somebody in a meeting, sitting at a table, in Capcom, was sitting there and was like, do you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have really varied objectives. We're going to have loads of new different dinosaurs, different bosses. We're going to have these sort of world raid kind of situations where you load into these instance areas where you're fighting like a Neo Tyrannosaurus Rex and there's like thousands and thousands of dinos running at you, and then there's all these events like the swarms where the raptors literally pour out of the sky like it's a waterfall or something.
Yeah.
And if you had played 5 hours of this game, you would have never seen any of this, and it's absolutely baffling. I can't understand why they did this, because a lot of people, now that we're removed from the review process, I like to keep up and listen to different people's opinions on games and stuff. A lot of people did first impressions videos where they played 5 hours and they were like, nah, I don't really think this is it. Kind of has a bit of fun, but ultimately you play it for a weekend and that's it. But if you push past that first weekend, you unlocked all these cool modes that we've experienced, and I just cannot. I I cannot think of another I'm sure there are other examples, but I cannot think of another multiplayer game that has decided to give out its objectives and its maps this way. If you play any other multiplayer game, all the objectives are unlocked from the get-go. All the maps are unlocked from the get-go. And then you can pick and choose what you want. But instead, they decided to give you a single mode and at the start, a single map. And you can't choose in between it, because another thing, this Jake gave them a compliment. Here's the negatives. Here's my negatives. Another thing is that since you can choose between the PvP and the PvE mode, and I like both modes, but within that, you can't choose what objective you want to do. There's like a payload mode. There's like sort of like a domination mode. There's loads of other different modes that you can choose, or that you should be able to choose. Because obviously people are going to naturally gravitate towards, I like payload modes, or I like domination, or I like demolition. The same way in Call of Duty or any of these other games. But here you can't choose it. So there are matches when I am just bored stiff because I'm doing a mode that maybe I've done too much of, or I just particularly don't like. And it kind of cuts up my playing time, where I think if I could choose what I wanted to play, I could sit down and play this game for an hour or two, maybe 3 hours straight. But since I have to do some modes that I don't really care about, it just kind of kills the pacing of it. So eventually, like the longest sessions I play now are 45 minutes to an hour. Whereas in other games where I can choose my mode, I could sit there and play them for hours.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't have as big of an issue with not being able to select the mode, because I like just kind of being into one of two pools, PvE or PvP. But the thing that's weird for me is the lack of like signposting that there even are different modes.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know, like the game is starting and you're like, what? There's a little message in the corner and it's like this is what you're doing, and I'm like, that's a mode? And and it's very strange, and I'm almost curious why they didn't make the decision to, when you're like unlocking these things or getting new things, well, on that main menu, why isn't there like a little sub thing on the side? Like how Fortnite has like little tasks you can accomplish, where it's like, hey, after 10 matches, this thing unlocks, and then you get this mode, or after, what I mean? Like, there's nothing like that. It's just like, play the game, and then you're shot into some random thing, and it just feels weird. So yeah, there's a strain. It's exactly what you said. It's me thinking about that boardroom or whatever it is that's sitting there, and they're like, "This is the decision that we're making," and I'm like, "Whoa,
yeah,
are you just too close to it? Do you just not see what it's like as a normal out here?" Yeah, I don't know. So that's really weird. And I think the other thing is, now to transition a little bit, I've fallen into the same position as you, where I pick the game up when I'm like, "Oh, I'll shoot some dinosaurs for a little bit. I'll go and do that and have some fun." And then I don't play it too much more beyond that. And I think it's because there aren't like, I know some people don't like this in their video games, but I kind of do. There isn't like a really adequate reward structure that's like interesting to me. The like little prizes and stuff that you get, like the loot box-esque things and the currency and the costumes, I don't find any of it particularly titillating. I think it's all just a little bit like, okay, a bunch of stuff that's still in the style of the game that is in front of me. And that's fine. I think the upcoming content, the Street Fighter crossover content, that might get me to change my tune, because I'm really interested in that. I think it'd be so fun to be Robot Ryu running around. But yeah, and I think a lot of these online focused games, I hate to say it because I know people don't like it, but they kind of like live and die by how interested I am in the battle pass. And I'm just like not that interested in this battle pass. It just doesn't really offer anything that I find to be super interesting. And the character progression that you can do for each mech, I like that it's there because it's something, but I don't feel the difference in anything I'm ever putting on my mechs. All of those little perks and things, maybe they're doing something, but I think they maybe should have gone the route of giving you like a very different ability. Like, for example, the tank character can do that move where he kind of like gets the aggro on him. He's like pounding his shield, and now all the dinos pay attention to him. Super useful move. But I kind of wish that there was a point in which maybe you unlocked like an alternate move that could be in that spot. Like that would make me go, oh, now I'm gonna play as every robot and unlock all of their alternate moves. And it gives me a little bit more personalization on the mech. Because right now there's just nothing driving me to like want to invest in each one of
Yeah.
them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, see, this is where I kind of struggle with multiplayer games because I've long been a competitive multiplayer gamer. Like when I get into a multiplayer game, I get into it. Like I've 1,500 hours in Rocket League. I've played hundreds of hours of Overwatch 1 and 2. And this is where I'm kind of striking the balance between accepting games as casual multiplayer experiences rather than trying to force a competitive experience into it. And in my review that I did, like my first review on my own channel, I was talking about those abilities that you were saying that you can upgrade. So on Nimbus, there is one ability that is just leaps and bounds better than anything I've ever used. So how Nimbus works, okay? Nimbus has pistols and like damage pistols and then healing pistols. And you can only shoot one at a time and you have to swap. And normally, now I don't have the actual statistics, but normally to swap between them, you press, I think it's L2, and there's I think a 3-second cooldown in between it so that you can't constantly swap. But Nimbus has an ability which you can upgrade, which is another thing I'm kind of struggling with. You can upgrade it so that it swaps things faster. So essentially, you can swap, when you upgrade it fully, you can swap as fast as the animation allows you, basically. So to me, that's where in PvE, that's fine. But when it comes to
just better, it's just better.
Yeah.
So so you have a distinct advantage, a objective advantage.
Yeah, and I kind of find now there is room where there are different modules that you can put on so that you can kind of almost build your characters a certain way. But so far, I can't see any reason not to have that specific one equipped. And in PvE, completely fine. But when it comes to PvP, and this is where I'm talking about the casual versus hardcore experience, like if you play any competitive shooter, or, you know, especially the hero shooters, a hero, regardless of what level they are, they will have the same abilities. So, you know, I'll deal 20 damage with a shot, regardless of how much time I've put into the game. And now, it's kind of like, if you'd play the game for a bit and upgrade that ability, Nimbus, in my opinion, is objectively better. So on the PvP side, I'm not saying the game is unbalanced. It doesn't seem unbalanced to me, but that's where I think this game will never be a hardcore experience. Because that stuff kind of rubs me the wrong way. I would much rather, if you are going to separate them, have PvE where you can build Nimbus whatever way you want to your liking, but in the PvP, you kind of have to have like a standard move set for them, if you know what I mean. And
I do. Yeah.
It's kind of, as I said, I struggle with the hardcore versus casual experience. And I've forever wanted every multiplayer game I've played to be a hardcore experience. I wanted to be super balanced and blah, blah, blah. But here, I've kind of come to accept that not every game has to be like that. And I'm still enjoying myself. And the PvP is my favorite part of it. But I can understand, like, it does seem to be not unbalanced, but there's definitely, I don't know, a bit there that I don't like the way you can upgrade your characters.
Yeah, I get that. And I think it's about making a choice. And I think there's like definitely a world in which this is just a more PvE casual focused game. And then maybe they can turn things up a notch. Maybe they can get a little weirder and crazier with some of the powers and abilities and stuff like that, if that is the choice. But because there is still this competitive edge to it, it kind of holds things tighter in a certain way. I do want to say, I think a compliment to the design of the game is that it is, in a lot of functionally, a very accessible game to get into for that casual audience. Because I think part of the gameplay is that it's never about like one guy being cracked. You know what I mean? Like that is not going to help you here. If you've got like one guy that's just absolutely nasty, it's really about the team and like playing roles and like filling your niche. And there's something about just like taking down the dinos that until the very end, until you're really against the other team, I feel like you spend the whole match feeling like pretty good about what you're doing. Like it's fun, it's satisfying, it's got a good like it works. It works at a level that I think is higher quality than we've seen in a game like this in like years. So there you go. That's kind of my to complete the compliment sandwich of
Yes.
Exoprimal. I almost now having this conversation, I feel like Exoprimal, my take, I think it's a really good game. I think it could be a lot better. I think there's ways in which it could iterate and like go in a specific direction. And I do wish it had more Capcom goofiness. I think they could really do something with that. Yeah.
Yeah, see, just touching on the PvE mode there.
Yeah.
There's a certain there's parts of the PvE mode that are really slow. So the PvE is kind of like Left 4 Dead. Like it's kind of a horde. Well, it is a horde shooter, but it's not in the same style. As in Left 4 Dead, you are moving from point A to B, and there's gonna be zombies and stuff in between it, but you won't know exactly where them zombies are. Like you can walk into a bathroom and there could be 3 zombies, or there could be 2, or there could be 1. Or
That's true. Yeah.
But in Exoprimal, you're still going from point A to B, but you're following this very linear path of objectives. And I understand this is kind of to keep it so that the pacing is the same for each team. But there are times when you go to an objective and you are sitting there for like 10, 15 seconds waiting for the dinos to spawn. And it just kind of I noticed it earlier. I haven't played the game in like a week, so just before this I sat down and played another hour and a half. And no joke, there was one objective that I've done loads, and you load into the level, you walk to the area where the first objective is, and then you stand there for what seemed like close to a minute while something spouts dialogue to you. And I'm just I thought we were at the wrong point, and then I remembered, I was like, oh no, this is the one where you just have to stand around for like a minute and just do nothing, like absolutely nothing. You're not even walking from area 1 to 2. You're just standing there. And I do think that the PvE mode is probably the thing in my eyes that needs more improvement, because since it is such a regimented section of the game, it's fun, but there are sections that need to be tightened up. As I just said, they need to be a bit more fun, a bit more chaotic, because the first 2 objectives in most maps pretty boring, and you're not really doing much. And then the final 2 is when it's like, oh, this is getting not overly hard, but you kind of have to start thinking. And then in the PvE or the PvP mode, I find that's my favorite, because there's them moments when you summon or you spawn as a Tyrannosaurus Rex on the other team. And I know you said that, you're not really reliant on one guy being cracked, and you're not. But in them moments,
no, the dinosaur guy.
Yeah.
That's a different story. And I will say, Adam, I turn my voice chat on for a second and I tell my team, I go, team, I need you to believe me. I am very good at being the dinosaur. So just let me go over there and I will secure us the W. I was a Triceratops earlier.
Nice. And I spawned in and I charged, and instantly I pinned 2 people into a wall. I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And they have like a drift mechanic as well. So when you're running, if you press L2, you can drift. And usually I dislike them sort of vehicle mech sections. It is, I know it's a dinosaur, but it is similar where you are in something else with different abilities and you're not your main character. But you can really influence a game as a dinosaur, which I really like. Like we were doing the objective, the one where you have to spawn the hammer and one guy has to hold the hammer while they charge it up to break the objectives.
Yeah.
And they were on the second objective, we were only on the first. And I went over as a Triceratops, wiped out the whole team. They couldn't get anywhere near their hammer, and it turned the tides of battle. We end up winning. I'm just like, oh yes.
So
like
satisfying.
This is fun.
It's so cool that they put a game-changing mechanic in the game, and it actually functions like that, but it doesn't feel overpowered. It doesn't feel, because you can stop that dino if you're ready for it and you think about it. So
and
really
that's another thing about the PvE mode, is since it is so regimented and very structured, there's no real way to influence the PvE mode. There's later on down the line, on a couple of objectives, they spawn these they're like these little circly dishes that hover over your team, and depending on how much score you accumulate while that thing is around, it sends over like essentially blockers from Destiny 2 Gambit or something like that. And I kind of wish there was more of that, because the PvE mode is kind of, you're just running through the mill or running through the mill.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the phrase. Yes, you're running through the mill, and then you're getting to the end part, and that's when the game gets really fun.
Yeah, I think you're right. Most of my matches like that, it kind of shows you where the enemy team is, you know what I mean? And we're always like right there next to each other.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel meaningful as like a race, where, you know, it would be fun if, like, I think this is goofy, but like if there are 4 different like obstacles before you get to the end, why are we like fighting 1, 1, 2, 2 at the same time? Why not give me 1, 4, 3, 2, so that maybe there's like a little more movement in the race? We can end up at the same spot, but then I'd feel like, oh my God, they're so far ahead of us, but I don't know what they've dealt with, and they don't know what I've dealt with. Like there are ways I think you could make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, I think Exoprimal, a lot of fun. Could be better.
Yeah, could be better.
Really quick, I do like when it's like, okay, clear out all the dinosaurs, and it has on the top, it's like, you need to kill this many raptors, and you need to kill this many of the flying guys. And it's like, people always forget about the flying guys.
Oh, they always do. And if you're the shield guy, you can't attack them.
No, I know.
I want to be able to attack them. Please kill them. There's 3 of them up there. We just need to do it to finish this next objective. And then they're like, no, I have a range gun, but I'm just going to sit here and shoot the raptors.
Yep. Shout out to being able to change your mech in the game, though. You call out a new one. Really cool. Love that that's in there, because you could be like, okay, my team is struggling. It needs to fill this role. You switch things up. Maybe you change the momentum there. Really cool. Yeah, again, a lot of cool stuff about this game. A lot of stuff that they did right. I think this game is a lot better than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I think so, too.
And I think a lot better than a lot of people expected. So, yeah. So I think a lot of our criticisms of Exoprimal come from a place of, at least for me, I could see this being improved and being a lot better. And I could also see it being, even within the life of this game, getting updates in a way that really meaningfully changes the experience. So I would love to be playing Exoprimal in January. It would be so cool if they had something that made me go, ooh, I'm jumping back in. Like, I would love to see that from this game. I hope they can do it. So, any closing thoughts, Adam? Exoprimal.
Closing thoughts. I don't think this game is worth full price.
That's fair.
I think if you can get this game for $40, I think that's a really good point for it. And also, it's on Game Pass, which I noted, because we both have it on PlayStation, and it shows you the symbol of where your teammates are playing. Everybody has the Capcom symbol. Nobody has the PlayStation symbol. So I assume most people are playing it on PC and Xbox Game Pass. As a Game Pass game, now that's another story for another day. I could sit here and talk about that as Game Pass games and blah, blah, blah. But as a Game Pass game, it's good. It's very good.
Yeah. I think this is a prime Game Pass game. Now I'm curious about what you were nodding to there, but that'll be another video. So for now, Adam, where do you come down on Exoprimal?
I'll give it a liked.
I agree. Liked. Yeah. We liked Exoprimal.
We did.
Capcom, if you're looking for something to put on the box, a fun, unique, casual multiplayer game. Really fun, really unique. So, okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been a GameXplain review discussion. We liked Exoprimal. If you're playing it, let me know in the comments below how you are enjoying the game. And just if you are, get away from that default assault class. Away from that.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite DPS character.
The guy on the cover with just
with the rifle. He's. Well, actually, no. I take that back. It's either him or the ninja guy that has the blades.
Okay.
I hate the demolitionist person. He is boring.
Barrage.
Yeah, boring.
He's the best. No, he's the best one.
His hair is cool though. Hair, very cool. He's probably the best design.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, probably the most memorable.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Great.
Wonderful.
Cool.